I think this weekend is going to be like Cardano's first big party as a fully formed adult. And we've been getting these little hints all along the way that it looks like the ecosystem aims to make a big statement. Ready? Let's go. I know a lot of you right now are probably very focused on market conditions, and I get it, I do. Back in my early days in crypto, maybe in that 2014, 2015 period, I was also the hyper vigilant squirrel, very concerned about Fibonacci's and Ichimoku clouds anytime there was market volatility. But I would just say this weekend is going to be a huge celebration for Cardano and maybe a historic event. And there's always volatility in crypto. There's always something crazy going on in the markets. And you shouldn't let that craziness impact your ability to enjoy this weekend. As we get closer to the summit, we are seeing more and more little hints that Cardano has been keeping secrets from us. This is an article in City AM called Cardano Promises Industry-Defining Announcements at its Biggest Ever Summit. There's a really interesting paragraph in this article. It says, exclusive announcements. The Cardano Summit takes place on September 25th and 26th. Will feature prominent political figures. This is interesting because I think a lot of people see this and they're probably thinking like, okay, maybe there's a couple senators who are big fans of crypto, maybe they'll drop by because they represent Wyoming or something like this. And this is kind of a big business event in Wyoming, business and tech. Or this could be an actual nation state partner of Cardano. You'll remember Charles went to the Bitcoin conference in Miami, and he definitely took note of the presentation where they brought Nayib Bukele of El Salvador up on the screen. And he kind of announced, he was part of the announcement at least, of El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. And this was a really big deal. I wouldn't be at all surprised if these prominent political figures are more in line with that. It could just be, your average stop by some Wyoming politician. Certainly Senator Lummis of Wyoming is a really big figure in sort of the group of crypto allies in Congress. But it could also be a big nation state deal we don't know about. We still have all that chatter in the Salvadorian press, Spanish language Salvadorian press, about Cardano meeting with Bukele's brothers, who are kind of like unofficial advisors to Nayib Bukele. We also have all these other nation states that Cardano's been dealing with. We have all of the countries in Africa that Charles is going to go visit after he takes his break after the summit. We have a lot of other countries. We still have Mongolia and Georgia. They were kind of in that initial group of three along with Ethiopia. And we haven't seen any really, really big deals announced yet with Mongolia and Georgia. But I think anything's possible here. Prominent political figures. These could be US political figures, or this could be a brand new nation state partner. We just don't know. I think the language being used here is also important. You'll remember earlier, I think it was last week, we saw the tweet from somebody inside Cardano saying that there was going to be at least a mind-blowing announcement. Maybe it was even plural, mind-blowing announcements. And then we see this language, industry-defining announcements. In the paragraph where they talked about the political figures, we see groundbreaking announcements. You notice there are quotes being used here. Industry-defining announcements is in quotes. Groundbreaking is in quotes. I don't think this is the kind of language that Cardano would be using if they were afraid that they were overhyping something that wasn't going to live up to the excitement they created, especially after what happened earlier this year with the Ethiopia announcement kind of getting hinted at and then being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I don't think that Cardano would be using language like this if they were afraid of getting accused of overhyping this. And this paragraph doesn't just talk about political figures. It says prominent political figures, tech, and business leaders with some exclusive announcements. I think there are some big Cardano secrets that we're going to find out about this weekend. And I think it's going to be super satisfying after being on this road, this whole ecosystem, being on this path for so long. On the not so positive side, we've seen some pretty serious accusations of wash trading leveled at a Cardano NFT project. This is a thread on Twitter by @MintaCNFT. And if you don't understand why there would be wash trading of NFTs, imagine this sort of general scenario. And I'm not at all saying this is what happened here. I have no idea what happened here. I'll let you read the thread and make your own decisions. But as a general matter, not applied to this particular project, but as a general matter, you can imagine if you are an NFT project, your goal is for your NFTs to have a high valuation, probably. And one way you could achieve this is by selling an NFT to yourself through an account that seems to be not your account. Seems like an arm's length transaction, but it's actually not. You're just buying the NFT from yourself, and you could buy it for sort of an arbitrarily high price to push up the floor on the NFTs, to push up the minimum price on the NFTs. This is sort of different genre of activities than the money laundering NFT activities we talked about earlier. In the case of the money laundering, the goal is actually to turn illicit funds into seemingly licit funds. In this case, you're starting with, arbitrarily illicit or illicit funds, and you're pushing up the sales history. You're creating a transaction in this NFT that pushes up the pricing. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of this. There have been little hints, people have been saying like, I think this transaction was a little suspicious, that kind of thing. But I think this is one of the higher profile events. Here you can see that it's got 32 retweets, 17 quote retweets, and 143 likes. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this in Cardano yet, but I'm sure as the rest of the crypto space discovers how enjoyable transactions in general are on Cardano, including NFT transactions, we'll just see more and more, at least of these types of accusations, regardless of, the eventual veracity of those accusations. The regulators were cranking up the heat a little bit on us today, guys. This is Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, letting us know that cryptos are not currencies, full stop. Cryptos are highly speculative assets. Yes, Christine, this is completely unlike the situation earlier today where I totally didn't have to speculate whether or not I would have to use 4 times as much fiat currency to buy a couple pounds of steak versus just last year, because you and all the other central bankers decided to try to solve all of our financial problems by just printing infinite amounts of fiat currencies. On the North American side of the Atlantic, the regulators were even more aggressive today. Here we have a tweet where an attendee at the Mainnet 2021 conference says, I just witnessed a guy get served by the SEC at the top of the escalator right before going on stage for his panel. And you can see down below in the comments here, people looked at the agenda of Mainnet, and they were kind of speculating as to who that was who got served by the SEC. I'll let you take a look at that and see if you agree with the conclusion they came to. What I think is interesting about this is not that the SEC served somebody at a conference. That part doesn't shock me at all. In fact, I'm shocked it doesn't happen every single conference based on the rhetoric we see out of the SEC. But what's interesting is the vast gulf in perception between the crypto community about what the regulators are going to do and what they actually are obviously going to do. And we're starting to see them actually carry out, actually execute on the plans they've been describing for months and months and months. And of course, the crypto community is shocked. Here you see a tweet from the organizer of the conference. He says, if you're wondering when I actually decided to run for Senate, it was when these very bad gentlemen came to my event, didn't buy a ticket, and served one of the speakers a subpoena. Enough talk, more war on our out of control regulatory state. The crypto community is obviously enraged at this person being served a subpoena at a conference, but this is actually something pretty normal when U.S. federal regulators are trying to serve somebody, especially if that's someone who doesn't come to the U.S. very often or isn't normally located in the U.S. If they do pop up in the U.S., they will serve them with a subpoena just like this. This is something that does happen. And with the number of people that come to some of these conferences, it's not really a surprise to me that the SEC was targeting somebody that was on a panel at that conference, that they're kind of monitoring who's attending these conferences. And, they're going to go ahead and serve them if they're trying to subpoena somebody for something and they know they're going to pop up at a conference. They're not going to hesitate to go to that conference and serve that person with the subpoena. But the crypto community, I don't think, is prepared at all for the actual intentions of the regulators, in this case, the SEC. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff. You'll remember our discussion last week about Evergrande. Evergrande was one of the largest real estate development companies in China, probably one of the largest in the world. And last week we talked about how it had about 305 billion USD in liabilities. It was looking like apartment sales were slowing down in China, and the Chinese government had enacted this, I think they call it 3-line rule, basically forcing all the real estate development companies to deleverage. And it was looking like Evergrande was probably going to default on its creditors once Monday rolled back around. Well, Monday rolled around and we saw a flurry of threads on social media letting us know in graphic visual format exactly what people thought was happening to the Evergrande bondholders. Here we have this gentleman in yellow enjoying his day as an Evergrande bondholder today. Of course, the big question around Evergrande last week and today was, is the collapse of this company, is this company so big that if it collapses, there will be a spread of contagion to other companies in the sector and even to the greater economy outside of the real estate sector. And here we see another real estate company in China, Sinic Holdings Group. This is their amazing chart. You can see they were kind of booking along just fine until they hit this line. Before you blew up this chart, it actually looked like this was the y-axis. No, that is actually the price movement in Sinic Holdings Group. And they weren't the only ones. We also saw this in Country Garden here. You can see a drop off at the end there. Guangzhou RNF Properties drop off there, and also in other companies. And of course, people in the rest of the world got to see the lovely results on their markets. A lot of people in crypto seem to be kind of on the sidelines cheering for this to happen, which is sort of ironic given that Bitcoin was created to remedy this situation. But it's a lot. There are opinions on both sides as to what the Chinese government is going to do, especially since Xi Jinping hasn't exactly been friendly to billionaires and their companies over the last several years. But it seems like there's a lot of people coming out on the side of we won't see this type of bailout of the entire company. What we might see is the Chinese government trying to make whole those consumers who bought apartments from Evergrande, which are currently like half built. They might try to bail out those people because they don't want those people to be out their 50% down payments. There were also certain investment products marketed to the employees of Evergrande. Those are basically also just loans at this point. And it would make sense for the government to also try to make sure that those employees are made whole. But it's very unclear what else, if anything, the Chinese government might do in this case of Evergrande. So regardless of whether it's this poster's prediction of what's going to happen with Evergrande or something completely different, hope you're having a great week and you're getting ready for the summit. I will talk to you tomorrow.